by Carlton King, former Scotland Yard Special Branch and MI6 officer and the author of Black Ops.
I was undercover for Special Branch in a jihadi organisation.
If you'd like to help Carlton keep producing the Black Spy podcast and receive episodes and information that's only available to Carlton's special Patreon agents, then you can donate as little as £3, €4 or $5 a month by signing up with Patreon. See the Black Spy podcast notes or Google Patreon Black Spy podcast and pledge your monthly amount. You can even win the opportunity to be a guest on the show. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe for free.
My name is Carlton King, and welcome to the Black Spy Podcast, the show that shines a light on the world of secret intelligence, national security, and armed governmental personal protection operations, but also looks really into the area of geopolitics. Now, last week we tried, and we succeeded, I think, but you will be the judges of that, ladies and gentlemen listening, in doing a 6 days of Christmas, because we've got another 6 to go on, with my two compatriots here, podcast wife, Firgas Esack. Hello, Firgas.
Hello. I'm scrubbing the dishes in the kitchen as we speak.
That's it. Keep scrubbing, kid.
I'm prepping the turkey. I'm checking the list, checking it twice, and I'm laying the table. So I don't know what podcast mistress is doing right now, but
well, as a mistress, I'm putting my lipstick on and looking a little bit really tasty.
That's the one. Love it. So that's where we are, ladies and gentlemen. But in part 2 of what we started last week, which was our 12 days of Christmas, which we're now on the 6th day coming through. And I do believe, tell me if I am wrong, we're going to kick off this next 6 days with the subject of ignorance. Am I right?
Yeah, I'm loving how festive my topics are. I'm literally the antithesis of Christmas. Which my children know, because I actually tell them that this time of year I am like the Grinch. My heart is 2 sizes too small. So yeah, I'm sticking to type. Now I wanted to talk about ignorance.
Okay, no. Like let's just.
Ladies, don't argue.
No, I'm not arguing. Before Dr. Rachel goes off on, I'm just going to ask everyone to share, because I think this might be an opportune point. What are you doing on Christmas Day, Carlton?
What I will be doing on Christmas Day is enjoying Christmas. I love it. I'm not a Grinch. I'm the opposite.
So I'm not either, except that my 4 children are now at that point when Father Christmas is like, they now get that it's.
And don't say anything. Don't say anything, just in case.
Just in case. Yeah, just in case. But like, let's say last year they set up video cameras and spy traps and many other things in order to try and prove this point.
Brilliant. High tech.
And as a result, we were up at 2 a.m. having to do Christmas at 2 a.m. on Christmas Day because I'd foolishly, created the magic of Christmas before going to bed. So I am genuinely hoping that that we can find a happy place with Christmas.
No, may I be flippant?
But May I be
flippant? Now, of course, because you went to all the posh schools with all the royal people, I would have thought that you'd have done your Christmas on the 24th.
Well, there we go. Now, I'm only saying this because you've interviewed my mum. And listeners might remember that. So listeners might remember that my mum's German, so we always used to do Christmas on Christmas Eve. So Christmas was always on Christmas Eve, and also my mum is Catholic, or comes from a German Catholic family. So if we ever had German Catholic Christmas, it's very much midnight mass. So
correct.
It's actually, when you're a kid, quite exciting because you get to stay up till midnight. I mean, take the religion out of the equation. You sort of get to stay up till midnight and you get to come back home and you get to open all your presents at 1 a.m. Like, it's actually brings that level of extra level of sort of excitement to Christmas. But there are other things in a sort of German traditional Christmas that you know. I mean, I had a conversation with Dr. H over the weekend, saying like, I just feel so flat and let down at the moment on Christmas Day because people don't want to do anything, whereas when I was a kid, my mum used to just take us to the airport and book a cheap flight somewhere.
What?
We'd literally just like, because Christmas was over and done with. German Christmas was over and done with by 2 a.m, right? And then we'd just get up at 8 a.m, drive to Heathrow or Gatwick or whatever, and my mum would just go, great, let's just fly somewhere, and we just go somewhere, because like my mum sort of just didn't feel like there was any point in being sat at home on.
No, my what was about the
Christmas
wealth.
Day, Boxing Day.
We could only dream of a flight. I used to get an orange or an apple up north, orange or an apple, and I was happy with my Christmas present.
Imagine that you didn't have money spent on Christmas dinners or Christmas presents or whatever, And
Still be the same.
This was 1985 or something, right? So the flights weren't that expensive. And that was just what we did at Christmas. That was kind of the Christmas present, I suppose. We just fly somewhere for a few days because in those days shops weren't open. Anyway, everyone just used to sort of hibernate, and we didn't see the point in sitting around staring at a tin of Quality Street, wondering how long it's going to be till someone has to eat the toffee pennies.
You're lucky you had a tin of Quality Street, kid. That's the thing.
Do you know what? I wasn't allowed sugar until I was about 10. But my dad was quite good at winning raffles, so sometimes we did get Quality Street, and so I'm aware of the principle. But anyway, this is taking us away from Dr. H's important topic.
I'm sorry, I just like thinking that we need to do a competition where people from the north can outdo each other on the depravity of Christmas.
Absolutely. I'll win.
Do you know, there's a survey, right? There was a survey story. The Mirror ran it last week, and it was about a very British Christmas and what people think are the values of a very British Christmas, and honestly, having the green triangle in the Quality Street something was very much like I think 15% or something.
Very good.
Responded on that, but also I will maybe I'll share the link to the story when we sort of post this, so that listeners can actually look at the survey. But going back to last week's episode about greed, I think there are a lot of there are a lot of vanity touch points on that story. One that I quite liked, I think, though, was that the lots of people were talking about going on a Boxing Day walk as being one of their sort of favourite things about a very British Christmas. But like it's that thing where you basically just walk up the street and nod your head at someone.
Right, Merry Christmas. No, but it's true. I like to say Merry Christmas. It's true.
It's like if people value a Boxing Day walk so much, make it a thing,
Because if you look at German one, every Sunday you do a walk. Every Sunday.
We march up the Alps like singing songs from the Sound of Music. No, we're not that much of a cliche.
Dr. Rachel,
to me,
Dr. Rachel, we need to move.
A walk is a walk, right? But it's not walking to the end of the street, nodding at somebody, and then walking back to your house, is it?
No, but it's spirit. It's the spirit. Dr. Rachel, ignorance.
Oh well, ignorance is one of my hot topics really. In that, I've started using the word ignorance rather than stupidity, because my partner said that that's really unkind, calling everyone stupid. And actually, there is something about that, because now I can look at people as being ignorant rather than stupid.
Yeah.
I've tried to change my emotional reaction from one of anger to one of awe and wonder. In like, how can you be so ignorant? Because it was not healthy for me. Interestingly, though, I do suffer from I have a nervous system disorder where I have really low resting heart rate. So sometimes anger is good because I'm not clinically dead, because it raises my own heart rate. But the interesting thing about ignorance is that there's a whole realm of psychology that's dedicated to studying ignorance. And, there's like various stages of ignorance. And I have witnessed, quite a lot in the last 3 years, really, where there's like willful ignorance, where people just don't want to investigate, don't want to see the truth, and it sort of coincides with quite a lot of conspiracy theory, like a bit like the Matrix, would you take the blue pill or the red pill? Mm-hmm. And I read an interesting article just last week where it was like, by 2025 we're actually going to run out of conspiracy theories because they're all going to be proven true. And it just made me chuckle. But ignorance is growing, and I know we're going to touch on some like sort of reality TV shows later, but it's almost like that the environment is so tough that people just don't want to know the truth, in that it's just not palatable. It's just that we haven't got the resources to deal with it. We're going from crisis to crisis to crisis to crisis, and it's just like, I haven't got any internal resources to deal with whatever else is being disclosed, discovered. So therefore, I'm just going to put my head in the sand and just not investigate it. And the reason why I think it's so detrimental to me, the rise of ignorance in society, is that no matter how bad things have been, I have never been afraid of looking the truth square in the face and just say, this is the truth, and we can deal with anything as long as we know it's the truth. And we seem to have a whole demographic of people now who will go completely out of their way to not see the truth and defend their bias, so much so that actually they will be physically and psychologically violent to other human beings. And it's just, I just want to I wanted to talk about it, and also as a lighter aspect to it, there is a book called Ignorance, written by Peter Burke, and I spotted it, I wanted to read it, and it's interesting is that there's also quite a lot of ignorance and bias by the author, and that actually it really made me chuckle. And I thought, should I email him and actually just say, you realise there's quite a lot of ignorance and bias in you? And I just thought, I haven't done that, because maybe I should just leave him in ignorant bliss.
Yeah, very good.
Well, okay, so I know we're going to talk about reality TV as well, but I feel like a media answer to your point is that at the risk of sounding like Piers Morgan, here, which I really hoped I would never have to utter that sentence, but at the risk of sounding like Piers Morgan, that there are, the red tops in British media are, celebritized thick people,
Yes, absolutely. I was just going to say that. You
can be gloriously dumb and be a celebrity, like look at things like Gogglebox or whatever. You can be,
I know they want the stupid.
You can talk about how truncated your cultural experience is, right? And people applaud you, or you could be Stephen Fry or whatever, and people go, okay, he's an educated weirdo. Or what do you know what I mean? But all I'm trying to say is that I know we spoke about YouTubers on the previous episode, but there are lots of TikTok trends. There have been quite a lot of TikTok trends in 2023 that have actually kind of quite disturbed me, because they put the word girl into there as a thing. And again, I know we spoke about Barbie as well, but girl math is like saying, oh, okay, you know, if you've got your period, you can eat what you want, or oh, you know, if you but if you shop in this shop, like a size 12 is actually a size 8, or you know, or whatever, right? And it's like, and then like there's girl dinners as well, like so you know, there's there are these TikTok trends where they sort of put girl on it to sort of say, right, oh, okay, if you just want to do the uneducated version, just dress it up as a sort of girl TikTok trend.
Well, who's it selling to? Is it selling to, for want of a better word, girls?
Well, but this is what I don't want people to be so stupid. I really don't. Yeah, but Carlton, it really bothers it. And we were talking about in previous episodes. It's like, you know, is this a soul thing? Greed, is it a soul thing? It bothers it, and it's not. It's a brain mechanism.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. Soul. I said soul. The thing that has soul for me was a more poetic license.
Yeah, but and this is the thing, Carlton. Ignorance affects my soul. I've spoken to people and really I've offered to give them, you know, my acquired knowledge and my acquired experience for free, so that they're no longer ignorant. And do you know what they do? They throw it back in my face and don't want it, and that really upsets me.
You see, Rachel, I would say the problem is that what we're all forgetting now is that the system is making people ignorant.
It wants them to be.
It's happy for people to be ignorant. It's absolutely, totally happy. I give you a true example. I went to school the other day to give a talk. And as I walk in, they've now got, in the old days, you could walk in any school, whatever you wanted. But now they've got, you know, you've got to go through a gate, and then they've got a system. Then you have a receptionist who sits there, and you go in, and oh, take a seat, please, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, right, so you sit down. And then this guy came over, big old beard on him, 6 foot odd. He says, is this Mr. King? Yeah, it is. He said, oh, I'm going to that class. I can take him with me. She says, no, you can't. You're a child. You can't take him. And I looked at this fella, and I said, what? He said, but I'm 18. He says, no, you're a student here. You're a child. You can't take him. We'll have to get one of the teachers to come down to take him into a classroom. And I thought to myself, this is lunacy. I used to go at least every month to either Afghanistan or Iraq, like where British forces were, US forces, etc., during all the period of those wars, and earlier on in other conflicts. Right? I used to be there all the time. Now, 17-year-olds were involved in the army.
Yeah.
Right. They were taken in to training at 16 and a half, 17 they come out, bang, they're in conflict zone. Now, some people turn around and say, oh, well, they weren't allowed to fight. Rubbish. They were in there and they were doing their actions and they kind of. Now, when it was the Navy, it was even worse. You could be in 16. I was on that. Remember that ship whereby the Royal Marines were taken. Were captured by the, I was going to say taken hostage, weren't taken hostage, they were captured by the Iranians in the shuttle, in the waterway there off Iran. They were captured and taken. I was on that ship because I was taking the Secretary of State for Defence to speak to the ship's captain, and and these guys had come back and given her a great, hey, well done lads, and all that sort of business. So I was on and there were people there on that ship who were 16, 17, young sailors who were being trained as whatever, right? Well done, HMS Cornwall. They were being trained as whatever, right? But they're in a war zone. So now you're telling me this guy can't move me 200 meters from the reception to a classroom, but yet still the Army, Navy, Air Force can have all these people. The Army can train them to kill people from 15, 16, and the other two can train them up to utilise weapon systems that can kill a whole host of people, right? And that's all okay.
Yeah.
So where are we? What's the situation? What's going on?
You're quite right in that, you know, the system wants everybody to be infanticized. You know, they want people to not be able to think for themselves, to be told what to do, to be easily manipulated. And they're doing a lot of that with fear. You know, but I want to lead a revolution of actually human intelligence, you know, and intelligence is really interesting to me, because intelligence, like the pure definition of intelligence, is your ability to adapt to any environment. Mm-hmm. And I've struggled with this environment because I just don't feel like I belong to it. You know, I feel so, I don't know, alone at times, because you go out into the public, or, you know, even with some of my peers, I'm like, how can you be so ignorant? You know, how can you not see what's going on? So I think, you know, let's use this to sort of, who's with us for our revolution of intelligence?
Absolutely.
Well, listen, I feel like you talking about intelligence like leads me on to my next day of Christmas.
Yeah, that was my intention, Ferg. That was my intention.
Yeah, well done.
Good segue. Good segue. So I'm going to talk about AI, but actually, in particular, I'm going to talk about the Bletchley Park summit that happened in November of this year.
Yeah. Mm.
When, like, let's face it, like, you know, Rishi and Elon Musk like had that cringeworthy conversation, and then King Charles was there, like, you know, like whooping and fist bumping and
hollering. Huh? Whooping and a hollering.
Whooping and hollering. But like, look, you know, I mean, like, look, in 2023, like, Elon Musk quit his job as he quit his role as an ambassador in the original AI research company that he was in. Mm-hmm. Then he launched his own one in June. Mm-hmm. And then he sort of asked the world to pause on AI development whilst
he caught up.
Well, yeah. Whilst either he caught up or whilst he was sort of renaming his children after algorithms.
It was catching up. He wanted people to stop so they weren't ahead of the game, and he could be.
Exactly.
He bought. Give him his due. He bought the original ChatGPT, didn't he? He had the original, but then what happens is it got sold out, and he lost out on the sale. So he wanted to recatch up. So he had the original.
Exactly, but then, right? So then, you know, the Bletchley Park summit, you know, which attracted a lot of media attention. You know, one of the highlights, I suppose, eye roll moments, I suppose, was that he spoke to Rishi Sunak about that you know, the summit was called in order to try and ring fence key issues such as, you know, extinction and chemical warfare and I suppose spying to a certain extent, but to agree on best practice, right? And then billionaire Elon Musk does this interview with Rishi Sunak, like an hour long, the most cringeworthy thing ever. You know, he said things like, in the interview, he said things like humanoid robot, like self-driving cars are fine, but humanoid robot can chase you up a tree. And it's like, well, okay, is Tesla not building cars that can chase you up a tree then? Or like what are you trying to say? You know, and I just, one of the most poignant things about the interview for me was that he said at the end, he's like, I think Rishi Sunak said that his kid, like one of his kids or something, you know, was having trouble making friends at school or something, and Elon Musk said, "Oh, I can find an AI friend for him."
Oh,
you see, to me, and this is what, once again, where the situation comes back to what we spoke about in the original part one of this extended episode, was that the people at the top are not controlled and never will be, the way our system is today. So you can have all this that you want, Bletchley's, and really it's a sideshow, because the reality is these are private companies making these decisions. Right? And in the United States, they're giving these private companies military contracts to carry out this work. And this is where and no doubt they'll be doing the same in the United Kingdom and wherever else. And then you've got a whole segment of the world that you've not even touched with this Bletchley conference, right? Who's doing its own thing. So take China, for example, and the Far East. So the problem is with this whole issue is private companies are making decisions which will change us around, and based upon the system.
Exactly. And also, Carson, right? I mean, your listeners might have seen there was a thing in the press. Like Elon Musk actually released a cartoon, like a caricature image, and it said something like it had like the UK, the EU, China, the US, maybe like I don't know, but essentially like it had and they had like speech bubbles kind of saying that AI presents a catastrophic risk to humankind or something like that, right? And then it had him like going, but I can't wait to develop it first.
Yeah. Well, you see, the thing is this, you see, and I'll be very, very quick on it, but if you've trained the AI on what we are doing now, right, it will make quick conclusions based on its training. Now, subsequently, it might train itself on other things. But right now, where we are with it is it knows that what matters is profit. OK, so let me give you a concrete example. The Teamsters Union massively, like how the Writers Union in the United States came out against AI, the Teamsters Union's coming out against AI. Why? Because they now have self-driving trucks. Now, if I own a trucking company that's going through the United States, do I want to pay a human being to drive my trucks who wants holiday pay, gets sick, doesn't want to do as I tell him, find some excuse, etc., etc.? Or do I want a machine that just carries on and does it? Well, I'll answer you that question. I want the machine. Now, where does the problem lie? When you look at the Teamsters Union and trucking in the United States, it is a massive industry just because of the pure size of the country. It actually puts a massive amount of money into the GDP of the US. From the perspective of many individuals earn their living doing that. So if you can't do it in driving anymore, and if the Teamsters happen, it happens with, big 50-ton trucks. Soon it happens with your Uber or your normal taxi. So all those people are put out of work. Where's the money come from to run the system? Government might think about that, but why should private industry think about that? Because private industry is only thinking about what makes profit for them. It's not doesn't care what's happening for the country. This is the juxtaposition with AI. Because what will then happen is that just like with Captain Ludd, people will start saying, well, let's start destroying this stuff because it's destroying our work, right? And then you get that battle. Now, this is where the problem lies. Because it's smart, even if it's only smart enough to have knowledge of the information it requires to make something happen, and we go back, funnily enough, Dr. Rachel, and in fact to you, Fergus, where you were saying about individuals who think they're very, very smart but they're ignorant. What we look at the fellow in Borneo or in Papua New Guinea or in some places in Central Africa who are living the nomadic life. We say, oh, look at those dumb people. Or in South America, look at those dumb people, they say. Look at them living like that, living what they call, I don't like the word tribe, but I'll use it, the tribal life. Right? The reality is those people are more capable than we are.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You cannot build a power station. You don't have a clue how to do it. You do not even have a clue how to fix your basic electricity. You don't even have a clue anymore now. You can see this from various how to cook your own food. Right? These people can do all of those things. They don't build a power station because they don't need one, but they utilize the power that they have available to them in an abundant way that they can still survive. Right? Yeah. They can do all of that. They have the capability to survive. Take them out of the jungle, put them in the West, and within a week, they can live same as we can. Take us out of the West, put us in the jungle, we're dead in 3 days. This is the big difference. Yep. Right? So what AI will do, I'm telling you now, what AI will do when people start destroying it, you see it now already with things like speed cameras or whatever else they're doing it with. When you start destroying it, these things will learn, hang on, they're attacking us. So now they'll learn to defend themselves because now they get information.
Yeah.
Once you start defending yourself and you've also fixed into it a human perspective on defence activity, i.e. on looking after yourself, making sure you survive, the sky's the limit for it.
Well, at this point, Carlton, I want to say,
I'm gonna like, before Dr. Rachel has the wrap up on this, I'm gonna say like it was part of Darwinism, wasn't it? Like Darwin kind of said that the robots will bring us down, that will lead to extinction. In the 11 years since I've started having children, right, technology has moved on so much that I could robot parent.
Correct.
If I wanted to. Our house, like, there's Alexa in every room. There's the Alexa cams in every room. I can see every room in the house. I can see, like, whatever. It's not because I want to be Big Brother. It's just because the Alexas that we had in the room originally, so that the children could listen to music or watch something, or we could have an intercom system or whatever. There's now the technology that means that I can see every room.
Correct.
Right. So there's there's tech for good and there's tech to a certain place, but nobody's put, circling back to what you said, nobody can. This will never be. This will be the next global war, won't it? I mean,
absolutely.
To be honest, it might as well be fought by robots.
Absolutely.
Right?
You already see it in Ukraine. What they're not. Sorry, Fergus. Just while I'm not. What they're not telling you about Ukraine, you already see it, right? The Russians are using an IRS system, intelligence, a reconnaissance and surveillance system, right, which is decimating, and I mean decimating, the Ukrainians. They have drones that are sitting up in the air, flying around for 10 hours, right, search out their own target and attack the target, right? End of story. You light your cigarette there, it sees you, boom, down, you're done, finished, right? It's already there. This is already happening. We're falling asleep on it. It's already happening, right?
But like, look, going back to where like my moral stance, rather than my stance as the media, my moral stance is that, I think you can do that. You can do that all you want. You can do that all you want. You remember, I'm currently, like, laying out the kitchen table for you. Absolutely. No, like, the thing is, government, circling back to ignorance, like, governments have the right idea about trying to create a Treaty of Versailles sort of equivalent of where the agreements should be and where the boundaries should be, and where no one's got the power to do that.
Correct.
And no one's got the intelligence to do that. And at governmental level, however,
it's not intelligence.
There are millions of people. There are
integrity.
It's not intelligence. It's right, exactly. It's integrity. They're already bought and paid for. By the time you get to there, you're bought and paid.
Millions of people on the dark web that can take this off, and like, we don't know that there's not a dark web agreement. Right, going on.
What you're saying about governments, Fergs, what we said right in the original other programme last week, they're bought and paid for. If it costs you in the United States, I think the figure came out this week, I think it's something like, and I may be whaley out, and I mean under, about something like $80 million now. And I think I'm under, actually, to be a senator. Right? Right. Well, who can afford that? So therefore, they owe people. And to be president of the United States, it's vast amounts more. So even if you had all the integrity in the world, unless you've actually said to somebody, we're going to do this, that, and t'other, you're not going to get the money. That's you finished. You're done.
Okay, but also, guys, right? Even just, I'm going to just take this out of the AI moment at the moment. Look at something like the High Seas Treaty that was signed in 2023, right? So loads of governments were essentially saying, like, look, let's protect all the sea creatures, but the migrants, let's not bother about the migrants. We're actually putting the sea creatures, not that everything's not important, but
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying, Fergus, and it's a massively superb point. Because we say save the elephant. Let's take away the fact that most of the elephants originally started being died out in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, when Americans and Europeans went there shooting them dead for fun. But let's take that away from it. Look now, and you'll see an elephant, and what will happen is the elephants go around and destroy the crops of the local indigenous people. Right?
Yeah,
if you had one golden eagle that did that in Britain, they'd be trying to stop the golden eagle, right? But the elephant should be allowed to do what it wants. This is the problem.
People talk about fox hunting, right? You know, for better or for worse, and for better or for worse. I mean that for better or for worse, right? But if it wasn't for the fox hunters, there would be no foxes in Britain because they'd just be exterminated. Right? You know, like exterminators would be allowed to just eradicate foxes if it wasn't for the fact that the posh people need to go out and fox hunt. You know? I'm not saying that foxes should be eradicated by any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying that you know. Anyway, I really wanted to. I just wanted to wrap up the AI thing by saying, I'm dreaming of an AI Christmas.
Go on, keep going.
No, because I know how much everyone liked it when Carlton sang before.
Absolutely.
I'm segueing this into, I hope that by next year, the bookers of I'm a Celeb will be looking at Carlton, thinking about how great he might be in the jungle, and maybe he might want to just sort of showcase his singing talents now.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas. How's that? Right. No, absolutely. Fantastic segue into I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Why have I chosen that as one of the things of the year? One is that they put Nigel Farage in. And of course, if any of you know that I'm a big Remainer European Union, because I believe it was better for the everyday man and woman in the United Kingdom, and indeed throughout Europe. Now, I'm not going to go through it again because I did one on it last week before. But what I will say is this: for a European perspective, what the European Union did as a general rule is it kept them from killing each other, because that's what they've been doing for the last centuries, right? And having the European Union meant that they didn't kill each other every 20 years. So this was the positive thing of the the overarching positive thing. The other thing, which was probably incidental, was that what it did is it gave Joe Soap and Josephine Soap from the 28 countries the opportunity to live, work, put their finances into any of those countries as they wished, and to travel to them as they wished, with no need for any visa, in fact, indeed, any stopping at borders, etc., right? So that gave you a fantastic opportunity. So people that would never, and I mean never, have had the opportunity to live a good life post their pension could go and take their pension and live in a poorer part of the European Union as a general rule, and have a better life than they could have even dreamt of. Now, half of those people, let's say a quarter, because I don't like exaggerating, are having to come back because they can't afford it. Because now they're going to have 26 grand in the bank, 52 grand over 2 years. You're going to have to show you've got that type of money, right? Because you're no longer a citizen. So you have to show you've got that type of money. You've got to show you don't have to depend on the health service of that country, etc., and get private healthcare. Now they can't afford it. Now, the big problem is half of these clowns, ignorance again, are the ones who actually voted for Brexit.
Yeah.
Because people like Farage, who do have the money to still live there, we're telling them it's no good. And another little thing that you should know from the Farage one, which is quite interesting, his daughter was on the programme. He was married to a German woman. His daughters were born in Britain and had British passports. Never had a German passport before. As soon as he started with Brexit and it came out, right, what did his daughters do?
German passport.
You've got it. They got German passports based on the mother. So Brexit does not affect them at all. They have exactly the same rights to go to all the countries of the European Union, live there as they wish, educate as they wish, etc., etc. Funny, Farage never tells you that.
But also, Carson, right? Just to lower the tone here, right? Going back to episode 1 when we spoke about Mr. Beast burying himself in the ground for a week and raising loads of money, right?
Yep.
Nigel was in the panic pit for maybe 2 hours or something.
Yeah.
Who watched? How many people watched it? Not that many, probably. But maybe not. I don't think all the Brexit supporters got behind him and went whatever. I don't know. Maybe they did. But what impact did it make?
I think he came over well.
Mr. Beast buried himself underground for a week and bought YouTube, right?
True. But I think Farage actually came over well. I'm fair, I think he came over well. I think he came over as a nice bloke for most people. I think they say, oh, he's a nice bloke, Nigel. He came up. But some of the things that he said, it's going back to something. Nella, that YouTuber, we could have done in YouTuber. Nella, she came out with some ridiculous statements when Fred said, I could be your father, right, in cooking. Oh, my father died. Total and utter nonsense. This is all part of the ignorance and all part of the situation whereby they're infantilizing people. How does Fred know that you're going to take it that your father died? And I'm saying I could be your father. What he's basically saying is I could be your father, so I should understand how to cook this issue. Taking the account I'm a chef as well. Total and utter nonsense she came out with. Right. Yeah. Then she came out with some other nonsense about Farage. Now, Farage played it. He said, as a white man, I think that doing a black accent is a problem. And I thought to myself, Nigel, you're meant to be this great British Empire guy. In fact, at one stage, you said, come on, you're still sleeping. How do you think we ran a third of the world? Totally correct. We didn't do that by sleeping in. Right, well, if he understood his British Empire, he should understand. He said, because I can't do a Jamaican accent, people will take it as though I'm not woke, as I'm being stupid. Actually, understand, Nigel, Jamaica was not the land of black people. Okay? Jamaica was the land of the Arab and Kerouac Indians. We call them, they were called Indians because basically when Christopher Columbus went there, he thought that he did discover India, when actually what he discovered was the Americas. And that word discovered is a crazy word because people are already living there. So how do you discover it? So in other words, the Europeans understood where it was. That's what it was. So they call it discover. But the point is that these were not African people. Now, they may well have been the people who were mixed with Africans because Africans went out there both from Egypt many millennia before, and also from West Africa, from a fellow by the name of Banza Kankan Musa, one of the richest people the world has ever seen. Look him up. He sent also a flotilla of people out to the Americas, and they never came back. And the ultimate views is said to be those people that came over there. So there may be African mixture, but the Africans that they're talking about who speak with that accent speak exactly the same as do white Jamaicans, or as do Chinese Jamaicans, or as do Indian Jamaicans. They all have the same accent. There is no accent that's just for black people in Jamaica or in any of the Caribbean, because as a general rule, the indigenous people were exterminated by the Europeans, which were, in many cases, the Portuguese were mixed anyway because of the empire of the Moorish times and Spaniards and the Moorish times and Italians. But put that aside. But the reality is that it's not an accent that's only of black people. So Nigel should have known this.
You can go even further, right? You can go even further, because is I'm a Celebrity not making a mockery of tribal people anyway who might insects naturally?
Absolutely.
I think it's making a mockery of the forest
naturally and live in mud huts naturally.
And again, that's a mindset. That's you assuming that that's negative. Those people choose to live in that way. No, not you.
I mean, actually, it's a back to earlier points that Dr. Rachel's made. It's a brilliant way of life, and we should they not be celebrating? My main problem with I'm a Celeb is I just don't think it's fit for purpose anymore. It's like it's been going on for however many years, and it's creating something that is creating a stigma. It's sort of saying like, survival is a challenge, but it's not. It's a way of life for so many people. Many people, many tribes live like this, and I think I just feel like
no tribe lives like that. One of them had a bloody panini. Tribe lives like that. Yeah, and this is really interesting because I think the whole thing, the premise around I'm a celeb, it really aggravates me on so many levels. One, that it assumes everybody is ignorant, and I want a disclaimer: I've not watched any for a fair few years. But the second thing, I want to go back on what Carlton was saying about sort of
changed,
the accent.
right? Obviously, it hasn't changed though. The entire format hasn't changed.
It's still the same. Still the same. The interesting thing, reiterating what Carlson said, is that there's some really interesting psychology research which shows that any kind of in-group, out-group dislike or hatred isn't on a colour basis. Actually, people are wary on an accent basis. So people are more aware of accents of where people come from than what they look like. So that's, you know, I wanted to get that in because I find it fascinating.
Yeah,
sort of the psychology of in-group, out-group, and who belongs to who and what that means. But also the thing, you know, I'm a celebrity. It's just so ignorant. It dumbs down the masses, which is exactly what it's for. All those celebrities have a price. It sensationalizes everything, and they're there for 3 weeks. It's hardly going to be life-changing when you're just somewhere for 3 weeks and you know that at any time you can walk away from that, you know, with your get-out clause and everything and just the banality of the presenters. I just all of it, honestly.
Well, one thing it does do, Rachel, and this is the point that I think it does do, and that point may not have been one that they particularly were looking for in the initial process. One thing it does do is it shows you how incapable many people are, right? It shows you the lack of capacity of a lot of people. And so it's the basics. Forget now the trials. It's the basics that a lot of people can't do the basics. So on this series, you've had 2 people leave. Why? Because the basics were too hard for them. Too hard for them. The basics. We're not talking now about trials. It's just too much for them because they're not disciplined. They've got no control. They've been infantilized, etc. Too much. You know, we want the creature comforts. All of that. That's what you see in this program. And the other thing you see in this program, and that was a good point that you mentioned, you see how people do come together. Actually, you see how people bond very, very quickly, even with somebody as I don't want to be negative on that. I was going to say as negative as Nigel Farage. I don't really want to say that, because as the person, he's been absolutely negative for the United Kingdom. He's destroyed much of the United Kingdom. And I'm going to say that openly. And people, please, listeners, if you think anything different, come back and challenge me. He's destroyed the United Kingdom, both in its situation in terms of its power internationally. This is why you see we have to now follow the United States totally, because we're outside of any system. So,
look. I'm gonna call time on your rant.
Yeah, but last bit. But you see, what I'm a celebrity does is it actually puts, and the first thing is the celebrities supposedly is it puts the celebrity in a position that most of them have never been in, and you see the weakness in the process. So I love it for that. Yeah, go ahead. Let's move on.
But basically, you've just segued. You've just done the segue that I was about to do, right? Because so yeah, well done. Happy
Absolutely.
Christmas.
Happy Christmas.
Line up the figgy pudding right now. No, what I was going to talk about in the landscape of 2023, was BBC presenters, because look, at the start of the year, well maybe not at the start of the year, in the spring, we all remember Gary Lineker and what happened there, and then obviously there was the Hugh Edwards story, and
I don't think you can put the two together, can you?
You can't put the two together, but my point is, if 2023 was an annus horribilis for anyone, it's surely for the BBC it was.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Gary's a thinking man, isn't he?
Gary's a thinking man. And he's superbly. We spoke about this. I don't know if we spoke about this on air or off air, but I know we did speak about this a lot. But why should Gary Lineker, a national treasure, and whatever, not have as much of a voice about migrants as Suella Braverman. I mean, for goodness sake, I mean, what am I, like, I mean, for goodness sake, Suella Braverman, like, she stepped on someone's guide dog.
Nasty piece of work.
Remember that story?
Gary Lineker, the one thing that Gary Lineker had to, and it was said, and this is the problem. He said Gary Lineker is just a footballer, right? Just a footballer. Why is he saying? What? Listen to the point. What they said. He's just a footballer. Why is he talking about politics? So in other words, this is where the dubbing is down to. Unless you're a politician, you can't speak about politics.
I'm going to ask the listeners now, right? If you had the choice of Rishi Sunak or Gary Lineker as Prime Minister right now, it's a no-brainer, isn't it?
And this is the point. So what they're saying is politics is not for the normal man or woman.
I'm going to cut in as well, is that he can't say what he did about, immigration and how we treat them, and yet take a fee to go and present at the Qatar World Cup.
Oh, absolutely. No, Gary's not saying. The beauty with Gary is that he's not saying that what I am is something special. He's saying these are my thoughts. And I've got.
Yeah, but he doesn't have those thoughts. Are not consistent. Those thoughts.
Well, they are, because as a BBC reporter, he wasn't paid by Qatar. He's paid by the BBC to report on the World Cup.
And to be honest, nobody had any choice about. Qatar was holding the World Cup, so nobody had any choice in the.
Yeah, he had a choice. He could have said, due to my ethical opinions about migrants, I'm not going to go there because they were treated appallingly by the Qatari government.
Well, I would argue then on this one, Rachel, that you wouldn't have the World Cup anywhere. There'd be no place in the world where you'd play it. Because at the end of the day, to be fair,
they possibly couldn't, but you have to be
play it anywhere. There'd be no in the world where you could play it. It's because nobody's better or worse than Qatar is.
But this is my problem. The BBC comes over as so principled. And yet,
which it isn't.
It isn't, and this is my point I'm making. In that I'm a person who lives my life through integrity and principle, so much so that my children laugh at me and say, "Don't make your life any easier, does it, Mum?" No, it doesn't. It doesn't make my life easier.
But to Carlton's point, think about places that historically the World Cup has been, like, Germany or Japan or
Britain.
Like, we're all as bad as each other. Like,
there's no way you could go where you would say it is any better. I mean, I've been to Qatar. It's, and to be fair, you will see people screaming and shouting to get to Qatar who are from the eastern part of the world who are poor, because they know they'll make in 1 year 80 times the salary they could even dream of at home. So that's why they do it. Well, it's just the way it is.
It's economics. It's just, it's one of the things you learn. I happened to sit on an economics lecture once, and what I learned from that is that part of the economic model is that if you are able to do something that's better than your original status, then we should never stop that from happening. So like you say, like people who are living in absolute poverty, if there's a job, which, the conditions are not great, but it helps to provide some of what they need, then that we should be encouraging of that. But I suppose for me, the whole of it, like the BBC as is, and I suppose this is sort of migrating from Fergus's, like the presenter things, is that they live in this ivory tower where they try to say that they're a certain thing, and they have all these rules and all these, this is what our presenters need to do, this is what anybody working for the BBC need to do. Yet they are so biased and so damaging to quite a lot of the, demographics, particularly the UK, is that you have to wonder, what do they say at their governors' meetings, their directors' meetings? How do they come at this? This is who we are. So, I think that, in terms of what their presenters have done this year, I think there is a connection between the two, because both of the people that Fergus was alluding to as part of her, this is what she wanted to talk about, they did what they did because they thought that they were in a position of power to do it, that they could do what they did because of who they were. So there is a connection in my opinion.
Exactly. No. Like, look, I'm not giving anyone a free pass here. I definitely did want to talk about about Hugh Edwards, because it was one of those. It like it in a way. It was one of those things that sort of sprung up, but then suddenly a lot of other voices in the BBC it wasn't quite a Me Too revolution, but there were a lot of other voices in the media, in the BBC, who spoke out. Now, look, I know your listeners aren't ignorant, and so they realised that in July 2023, Hugh Edwards was suspended by the BBC because there were allegations of sexual misconduct made by the Sun. However, from my side, there are lots of media conversations about whether or not the Sun should have alluded to the story, because when they broke the story, they weren't allowed. They didn't have enough evidence to name the presenter. So they just called him a BBC presenter. And as a result, there were quite a few other BBC presenters who sort of claimed that their reputations were misaligned. And rightly so. And actually rightly so, because the way that the Sun newspaper had presented it also was also was using images on social media that would give a steer to misrepresentation. And finally, when he was actually named, the case was actually quite complex, because it was only the witnesses and the victims' parents who were happy to talk out. Seemingly the victim and Hugh Edwards had sort of had an agreement or had something or whatever going on that they were quite happy to not talk about it. And the BBC did dismiss him. And then his wife kind of turned around and said to the press, actually, he's the victim because his mental health's at risk, and, blah, blah, blah. It's interesting because I don't want to I don't want to say something out of turn, but at the same time I sort of wanted to raise it. So look, I've got a lot of friends that work in TV, and people talk about work. When you talk to people who work in press and in print, we've got a lot of lawyers that, and I say this on the show quite a lot of times, that there are a lot of lawyers that prevent us from doing certain things. In TV, that maybe there are, maybe there aren't, but the margins, I suppose, are being stretched quite a lot, and I'm not in the TV world at the moment. I have a lot of friends that work in TV, but there's what it feels like in 2023 for somebody who works in the TV industry is that there's no protection for the individual, and there's no support network by the channel, because there are so many channels now, and TV is now being made to be syndicated so far. So fair enough, Hugh Edwards was working for the BBC and you'd expect him to stand up for it, but my sort of 12 Days of Christmas point here is that actually someone who's creating a program for the Food Network or the History Channel or whatever 11 billion YouTubes that might be bought up by Sky or whatever should have some level of moderation, protection, and sort of deniability / accountability.
Yeah, I mean, my point is dead simple. The press, which you were in, all the time goes out to push out stories like Hugh or Gary or what's the other guy from ITV, etc., etc., etc. They go out to push these stories out, but never look inside their own backyard, right? And the problem is that the press, if you haven't listened to it, one should listen to the Ghislaine Maxwell episodes, which we did. What the press does is, because of its power, because of how it sits close to politicians, because of the information it's got, Schofield, that's the guy, Schofield, my memory. Because of the information we've got, it never actually challenges what's happened within the press, the written press, and what they are doing. Now, all I can say is, from some of the places that we've travelled to with secretaries of state, etc., and where the press come along, I would say there's no great innocence in the written press. And they don't seem to pick up on their own problems. They always seem to pick on somebody else's problems. Why? Because they can get away with it. Because these ministers, these powerful people are so frightened of them that they don't. The royals, in fact, that's what we did that one, Fergus, on the royals, on Harry and Meghan. What he said, they are absolutely, totally fearful of the press, right? So this is our problem. The written press seemingly can do whatever they want and eat on, and I mean eat on, other people without it ever coming back. Nothing ever comes back. Example, I don't know if he's done anything wrong. I know he should have been in Leveson. I know there's no way you can be an editor of a red top newspaper and not know that some of the stories you were getting were obtained in a way that would not be ethical. So Piers Morgan, why is he not being put up there?
Well, no, for sure, but also, this is the bigger picture of, like, I'm a celebrity. Are you a celebrity? Are you a YouTuber? Are you a random person on the street? Are you just a normal person? And should every person actually be treated the same way? I mean, I think there's probably a version of reality where every single person who goes out to get their morning coffee gets papped, because every person is is important.
And that's a sorry state of affairs, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but no, it's not. It's like if someone who's a wag, let's say, a wife and girlfriend, right, of a footballer, gets papped, and it's a national news story that they're going out to get their latte in the morning, and they get papped, right? Surely everyone in the world deserves that level of value if you were going to perceive the press in the same way.
Is that value?
But is it? That's the question, is it? So, isn't it? So that's
it isn't, is it?
Yeah, but that joins up. I don't necessarily agree with that, but it joins up. Like, should a random person who someone has to explain who they are before they go into the jungle, right, be on I'm a Celebrity? So should a random person,
yes,
who's risen to fame suddenly be doing a Twitter interview with Elon Musk, even though they weren't a very famous politician before? Should a random person, all I'm saying is, should we celebritize everybody or nobody?
Well, yeah, I mean, the point I'm making is this. I mean, if you remember when the Big Brother first came out, I think I saw one of this one, it was a real psychological, physiological argument and discussion and a viewpoint.
Yes,
right?
And I can tell you a lot about that because I worked on it.
Right in the big, brilliant. We must do one on it. Right now, it's a joke. So this is the big difference.
I can tell you quite a few things of interest about that first series.
We will do one on it. We will do one on it.
We will do one on it, and I will get a spokesperson. I will get another spokesperson.
Ladies, let me throw my manlyhood in here if there's any such thing. I'm looking at the top.
I'm like you and me are in the kitchen, like scrubbing.
Exactly, that's it.
Like,
I'm looking at the timings.
Dr. Rachel's like, dressing the tree, and you
That's
are whipping out your manhood.
That's the one. You've got it. I can see it actually. I'm sorry. Right. No, I'm looking at the timings, and we're there. So what I'm going to ask, if we could, each of us do a 2-minute roundup of our 12 days of Christmas. I think it worked. Ladies and gentlemen, can you tell us if it did? Because I think it did, but please tell us so we can understand and we can do something different next time if necessary. So who would like to kick off with the roundup?
Well, I don't mind. I don't mind kicking off with anything. So I can go with my roundup.
Brilliant.
In that, I just want people to just think if they're adding to the greed or if they're not challenging greed enough. And I also want to just ask any of your listeners who want to join me on my quest for the revolution of intelligence. And I also want to just bring to people's attention that 2023 was a Luciferian year. And Lucifer is a very misunderstood angel/demon. But really what Lucifer does is bring things to light. And I think that has been so much brought to light this year. And I don't want anybody to shy away from the truth. I want people to embrace it. And also think that how can I make, sort of the human being, the race of human beings, that little bit better. So in a nutshell, my days were all about humanitarianism and how we can actually be the best human beings that we can be.
Super.
Do you know that the Luciferian thing? Actually, do you know what? I was going to ask you about this at the top of the show. I just totally forgot. Maybe there's some numerologists amongst our listener communities that can answer this question, but I did always wonder if 2023 was a doomed year anyway, because I don't know, I don't know if I'm shattering the James Bond myth, Carlton, but whether or not you've actually played roulette in your life. But somebody who plays roulette a lot told me years ago that 23 is the, like, if you want to do a safe bet on the roulette table, for some reason, even though it's not it's not predictive, like 23 red always comes up the most, right?
Right. Interesting.
So I did wonder if there's a numerologist in our audience community who could tell us if actually from the start 2023 was doomed, because whether there's some sort of link, but roulette players say this all the time, and obviously we've had so many. What some of the things that we haven't spoken about are the floods and the cyclones and the earthquakes and the space crashes and the in Dr. Rachel's world, there was the first synthetic human embryo created. Yeah. And I know that the Queen obviously sort of coined the annus horribilis expression, but I would be interested to know if 2023 was just going to be a bad year anyway, and if so, is 2024 better? Or is this a downward spiral to does Lucifer just have us now?
Well,
that's interesting. So sorry, go on.
I would, it depends how you look on Lucifer, really, because I'm a truth teller. I face the truth all the time, and to me, everything should be brought to light. I think the problem arises when people don't want things bringing to light. So there has been a lot of information that has been disclosed, and things that, there's always bad news days that are hidden behind distractions. And I just think people need to look, and if we need to have more years like 2023 to actually help us all fulfill our potential, then I say bring it on.
I would say that 2023, as it was, there are some negatives within it, as there are within any. Obviously, the bigger actions you can see were the wars that have gone around the world. obviously, we can talk about what happened in the Ukraine. We can talk about what happens in Yemen, which actually, by the way, is probably stopped because the Chinese got the Iranians and the Saudis together. So the Yemeni Houthis weren't getting the support. So you could see that as a positive in a break. You've still got problems in Somalia. Obviously, you've got the problems in Gaza, and which will expand into the West Bank.
Well, okay, just pausing you for a second, like podcast husband. But right, okay. So we've got BookBox outside our house, and someone put in an almanac of like 1979 or something, right? Yep. And the main problems in the almanac were things like a bad crop of blackberries. Or, you know, I mean, like, look, right, at the moment, like, you know, nearly 10,000 children have died in Gaza, right? That's not the same as a bad blackberry year.
No, but but if you went back to, let's say, something as simple as, and I'm saying it's simple because it's internal, as well, no, it wasn't really. There's a lot of external players, but Rwanda, right? You've easily got more than 10,000. You know, within 100 days, you had 800,000 people butchered, murdered, right? Amongst them would be at least 100,000, 200,000 children, 300,000 maybe. The way we're classing children today to 18-year-olds will easily have been that, easily, without going saying. And if you want to look at 1939 to 1945, you know, those years, those killing years. I mean, just let's take the end of it. Just let's take Hiroshima, right? In a flash, you will have had 30 times that figure of children exterminated, eviscerated, actually, eviscerated, right? In 1 minute, gone. And nobody ever says to the United States, what an outrageous war crime you did. Nobody ever says it. So my view on these things is not that straightforward. You know, it's mixed with many different issues. So looking at 23, I'd say it's worse than some, better than others. And I think that's the way the world is. I think the big danger would be if we get to a situation where you had, like we did in World War II, with modern weaponry. Because you see, the problem is when you get to this warfare situation, anybody can start a war. It's the most difficult thing to finish it. That's where my problem lies. Now I'm going to do something internal because I'm going to go into, and I had to do this, I'm going to go into the police very quickly before we end up. We are heading towards a situation where nobody will join. And I'm going to tell you a story that happened to me just last week or week before. A woman whose husband was in the police. She was worked in the royal households. Her husband was in the police. She asked for me to write a reference for her son to join the Royal Gibraltar Armed Forces, which is part of the British Armed Forces, which he did do. And at the time when she asked for me to do that, Afghanistan, Iraq was still running. So this is a guy who could have been sent to Afghanistan and Iraq. Okay, so I did that. Boom. And he got in and he was in the army. He's now coming out, or has come out, and she says he wants to join the police. Can you contact him and tell him it's a stupid and terrible thing to do and a horrific thing to do? This is the situation you've got now. She'd rather him in the army, potentially getting killed, than joining the police. I mean, what does that tell you? It tells you that the media have destroyed the police. The senior officers, if you say boo to a goose, they're going to apologise. Oh, sorry, you took the boo the wrong way, right? Anything they do, they apologise straight away. Whereas, you know, Fergus, when we did our one on the NHS, they've killed up to 1,000 people, murdered by NHS people, and not one person has come out and said, sorry from the NHS. Never gets done. But the police, and I leave you with this one, the one that 2023 happened in 2023. A woman gets on a bus with her son. The bus stops at the bus stop, and there is the Transport for London. Okay, and they've got their ticket collectors there. They call them revenue collectors. And everybody who comes off the bus, they're asking them, show me your ticket to make sure that you've paid for your revenue. This woman, happens to be a black woman, steps off the bus, pushes past everybody, and doesn't show a ticket and walks on. So she's stopped by the TfL people. Please stop, I need to see your ticket. She pushes him away, starts to move on. There's a PCSO there who, as you know, police community support person, has no police powers to arrest people, anything like that. Right? So they're there and they try to stop her and she just walks past. So there's an officer there and an officer stops her and she's shouting and screaming, effing and blinding. Right? So he says, have you got a ticket? Blah, blah, blah. So he puts handcuffs on her, I believe, in the end, because he's going to arrest her for not having a ticket, which is fair evasion, which is an offence. And all it would have been before he's just taking your name and address, right? And then she gives the ticket, right? She gives him the ticket. So the question is, why didn't she show the ticket to the fellow in the first place? The black bus driver says she was like a wild woman when she got off the thing, and her son. She starts screaming, "You're now upsetting my son," right? Well, to me, as a normal citizen, I would say you teaching your son the disrespect of not giving people the ticket when they ask for them is a problem to me, because you're not respecting just normal society like everybody else. Everybody else is giving the ticket. Why aren't you giving yours? Right? What do the Met do? Suspend the officer. Suspend him. Right? And apologise. What are they apologising for? This is lunacy. This is why this guy why his mother doesn't want him to join. This is why other people will be looking at that saying, that job's not for me, I'm not joining. And you're going to end up with, frankly, people in the job who shouldn't be in it. Right.
I'm going to take this to another level. I'm going to end this on a different note.
Yeah.
My son my 7-year-old told me a joke. He came home from school and he told me a joke. It's like like a Christmas cracker joke. So tradition of Christmas cracker joke, right? Right. His joke was, he said, "What do you get if you cross an elephant with anything that you buy for your kids this year for Christmas?"
Whoa.
The answer is more memory.
Oh, very good, Tina. Like it. And on that note,
we'll round up.
I'm going to allow my good people to say it's good night from me and it's good night from
me.
It's good night from me and Merry Christmas, however you are spending it. I hope that you find love, joy, and your own as well.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Keep going. Hallelujah.
Oh my God, Carlton's going to sing.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. I just do that, that little Christmas hallelujah. I love it.
I feel like I needed to stand up then, in the hallelujah chorus. I'm like so conditioned.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Brilliant, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for listening, and we hope to see you again next week.
If you'd like to help Carlton keep producing the Black Spy podcast and receive episodes and information that's only available to Carlton's special Patreon agents, then you can donate as little as £3, €4 or $5 a month by signing up with Patreon. See the Black Spy podcast notes or Google Patreon Black Spy podcast and pledge your monthly amount. You can even win the opportunity to be a guest on the show. Thanks for listening. And don't forget to subscribe for free.
Here is a working class spy telling his stories, the secrets, the lives of spies. Feel free to message Carlton King on all socials and give this show 5 stars on Apple iTunes and subscribe so you never miss a single episode. For your ears only.
For more than a quarter of a century, I was a member of Her Majesty's Secret Intelligence Service.